Create with Franz, Sidney. Hello everyone and welcome to the show. This is Franz, Sidney, and this is Create with Franz. We are so good here at designing the life that we want. And I always think about something, our thoughts determine what type of life we're going to have. Even our day, the way we start our day is incredible. We can start with gratitude and happiness, or we can start by going through all those problems that we have. And a lot of things that we have in our mind are what we call in our world of therapists limiting beliefs. And many of these beliefs are built when we were really young, when we had early experiences and we gave meaning to these experiences. And then we attach this meaning to these emotions. And somehow they affect our life. And we remember this very subconsciously. And they affect us so deeply that even our own health, not just emotional, but physical, can be deeply affected. Because of this, today I am so thrilled to have a very special guest in our podcast, and her name is Rachel Farnsworth. And she is also an RTT practitioner, but also she has so many qualifications. I'm gonna wait for her to tell me all, but really I'm so eager to have her here in the show because she will be telling us how hypnosis can help us to have a huge relief of many of the symptoms that we have created simply by holding a belief. And so I'm so excited to say hello and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Franz. It's just a pleasure to be here, and it's great to have a chat with you again because it's been some time, hasn't it?
I know, right? We have to do this more often. And
Yes.
Sometimes with just a hint, when there is so much scope, I invite people over and over. And we had a free episode with Steve about, for example, pain to go because it was so interesting. So who knows? Also depending on what the audience wants.
Let's just see where it goes. But it's right, because Bruce Lipton says that your thoughts are more powerful than any medicine that exists on the planet. So that is a very impactful sentence, and it's true. And I've proved that, working with clients has proved that to me over and over and over and over again. And it's just amazing how, because really you can simplify everything down to 5 words or less in what's wrong with any of us. And what's wrong with any of us is lack of self-love. That's it. And the lack of self-love comes from the past experiences where people made us feel bad about ourselves. And so, especially in childhood, and it's because in childhood we've got very little reference point of life. So if someone, like a teacher, says you're stupid, we don't question that. We just wear the label, I'm stupid. And therefore, what does that mean? Well, it means that I'm never going to make anything of myself. It means that I feel powerless and helpless and a victim and all that. And I'm certainly not lovable in that moment. And so we have to make sense of the outside world. Whereas if somebody said that to us now, you're like, well, who do you think you are? You shouldn't even be a teacher, perhaps. That's potentially the outlook we'd have as an adult. But as a child, we can't think that. So we have to make sense. And those stories just automatically come to us. We don't sort of rationalise the thinking. It just like, or if mum or dad didn't meet our needs in that moment, what does that mean? It means I'm not lovable. It means I'm not special enough. It means all this stuff. And so we disconnect from our inner being. And that is what disease, because it's dis-ease, it's that unease within us. It's the pushing it all down, where our stomach issues begin, perhaps, or we just push all the stuff down, and emotions are meant to be felt because it doesn't feel good. We don't process it. So those emotions just get trapped in our bodies and show up as physical symptoms. And that's what's going on, because you cannot separate the mind and body. The body is the link between the subconscious and the conscious mind. So pain and symptoms are just messages asking you to go within, and where the pain and symptoms are tells a deeper story into what's going on. And that's that's what's going on. So it's really powerful stuff, getting to the root of it all.
And sometimes, you guys, I hope you appreciate how deep this is. Think about it and listen twice, because that is so important. I never realized how important this is. The words we tell ourselves, they really prime us for success or failure. I'm not saying that disease doesn't exist. It does exist. You can break a leg, you can have cancer, there are diseases. But so many have a psychosomatic emotion right there at the base of this disease. So it's that one that will start an autoimmune disease or a problem, and we can see that with a lot of conditions. And one in particular is a condition that your own daughter was suffering from. Would you like to talk about that? Because I know it was also in the local news and in the national news. You ended up being in so many magazines. So tell us what was going on with the daughter. What was she suffering from?
She was suffering from juvenile idiopathic arthritis, which is arthritis in children with no known cause. And she was diagnosed when she was a year old. And we were doing all the things that we thought we should at the doctors and the hospital, taking all the medication. But the medication was making her sick every weekend. She was violently ill every weekend, throwing up. So basically we hadn't got a weekend. She was just being sick. And then by Monday she was slightly better. So she was back at school. And that was the cycle for so many years, unfortunately. But we thought that was the only option we had. Now, it's quite curious how the universe worked for me, because I wasn't interested in what I do now. I really wasn't planning on doing this. I was going to training in counselling because I wanted to help people. But the training I found, you had to do hypnotherapy as the first year. So I was going to sleepwalk through that and just do the counselling. But actually, that isn't what happened. I never did the counselling. I just stayed with the hypnotherapy. Isn't it wonderful? It's like the universe gave me that pill that I could swallow. And then at the end of that, so I qualified in June 2018, and in October, so 5 years as we're recording, my daughter was going through a flare-up because she'd been in drug-induced remission for 2 years. So she hadn't had any symptoms for 2 years because of the drugs. And so the doctor said, come off the drugs, she may have outgrown it. We were so hopeful that that was the case. Only 8 weeks of not taking the drugs, her joints were painful. They were really swollen. She got a temperature. She really wasn't very well at all. And so they were saying she needs to go back on the drugs, and this time it might be stronger. And both her and me were looking at each other in that doctor's room and just went, we can't do that again, because we'd seen what normal life was like. With not taking the drugs, we'd seen how going out was a thing. Isn't it stupid, really, when you look? Well, not stupid, but it's wonderful, in inverted commas, how we are conditioned and we get used to. It's like the frog in boiling water. The hotter it gets, it doesn't notice because the temperature's rising slowly, and that's basically what was going on. So we'd seen what normal life was like, and they were telling us we needed to go back on the drugs. And I'd got this new skill. Now, I didn't believe in my skill because, hypnotherapy, I wasn't planning on doing anything with it. It was just something that interested me. But I said to her, look, let's just have a session. Are you up for it? All you've got to do is close your eyes on your bed. That's it, And she's 14, so she's not the most, in receptive mode. But she said, yeah, okay, it's worth a go. So I said, look, if we do 52 sessions, if we do one a week, it's worth it. If we can reduce your pain, isn't it? So she said, suppose, as teenagers do. And so we had the session, and it wasn't the best session I ever had, but it will always be my favourite, because we were able to get to her personal root cause. And when I regressed her back, it was just, well, I just need to be me. And I was like, okay, this isn't working too well, because of course you need to be you. And then we did parts therapy and find out why it was there. And it was there because she needed pain to be like everybody. And I'm like, well, I'm not in pain. Who's your everybody? And so she said, well, it's my cousins and my brother. And she reminded me that when she was a year old, when she was first getting the symptoms, they'd all got pain of their own. One of them had had cancer. One of them had got asthma. Another one had had a hernia when she was born, and had to have the tonsils removed as well. So her everybody was them. And actually recently I've remembered that I had my thyroid removed back then as well, in when she was a year old. So I did have pain of my own as well. So her belief was she needed pain to be like everybody in order to fit in. And when she could see that in the cold light of day, that her pain wasn't actually helping her or them, she was able to let go of it. And she's been pain-free, symptom-free and medication-free since then, which is 5 years ago this month, October. So it's great, isn't it? And that's my why, because it's like, oh, if I can do that without actually knowing what I was doing, what else can I achieve? And so it's just that curiosity in me that keeps looking for the next, oh, I wonder if. And yes, you know, everything has got an emotional root cause.
So after a couple of years, did you take her back to the doctor? And what was the doctor reaction in knowing that she doesn't have pain?
Yes, well, the reaction was, yes, they agree with me that she doesn't need medication anymore. They've actually signed her off. I did tell them what I did. And it looked, honestly, if we were back in the day, I think I would have been put in a straitjacket. But so they don't believe what I did, and that's okay, because they've been, you know, they're down a different path. But we are on the same page in the fact that they agree that she's got no symptoms and she's not in pain. So that's all I need to know, really. So she's been signed off. So that's wonderful.
Exciting. Think about the different type of life that we can have.
Oh my gosh. Incredible, because she's trained as a hairdresser now. Well, she couldn't have done that back then because that was what she was passionate about. Her joints, her fingers she had lots of steroid injections in her fingers, in her wrists, in her knees, in her hips. So being a hairdresser wasn't an option. She wasn't going to be able to stand up for hours on end and cut people's hair or whatever she was doing in the hairdressing salon because it was too painful for her. But she's a trained hairdresser now. She's not doing that actively at the moment, but she works in a coffee shop. So again, she's standing up all day. She's doing all the things, and that wouldn't have been available either.
And so we're not saying that every single case of juvenile idiopathic arthritis is caused by emotion, but many autoimmune disease or non-autoimmune disease are caused by these beliefs that we hold. And I don't know if I can catch you with a long memory. I remember you were talking in the RTT forum years ago, because you just trained a few months before me, 2018. I was in October. And I remember you talked about this guy that has this massive psoriasis on his legs. And it was like, I saw the photos. I probably saved the photos somewhere, because it was like this huge angry patch on the legs, and it was massive. And I remember exactly what happened. Yes. So if you remember the story, and I promise, guys, we did not rehearse this before, but it just came to my mind. Would you like to talk about that?
Yes, he's one of my favourites, actually, my favourite stories, because that was back around, I think it was about 2019 that I helped him. And we were actually just talking about drugs at the time, because he was being told by the doctor that he would need similar drugs to my daughter. And I just said to him, well, you know what, I've got this new method. I think I can help you more. So he agreed to it. And he thought I was going to turn him into a chicken. You know, he was into the stage hypnosis idea of what was going on. And I promised him I couldn't do that any more than I could make him give me his car keys, you know. It's just not a thing unless he wanted to give me them. So the fact is, we got to his root cause. And yes, like you said, it was very angry looking skin. And it was about being angry as a kid, just normal stuff, you know, his brother teasing him and stuff, and just like, you know, any day-to-day stuff, nothing majorly traumatic. But he didn't know what to do with all that anger that he was felt. And he went to his mum, and his mum just said, oh, you know, it's just what brothers do, you know, deal with it, basically. And so all that anger within him was still there. And interestingly, he broke his knee in his 20s, and the psoriasis started at the top of his plaster cast. And it came up in the session that it was there to distract him from his painful knee. But the thing was that the subconscious hadn't cancelled the psoriasis after his pain and after his knee had healed. So 20 years on, the psoriasis was still there. And so when he understood why, when, and where it all began, he was able to let go and release it all.
Yes. I remember seeing the pictures, the before and the
incredible.
after.
Just 2 weeks later, the skin is healing. It's so different. It's just really incredible. He's got a little patch on the back of his left hand now. I caught up with him a few weeks ago, and he just said, "Oh, no, I don't need another. I'm okay with that. I can live with that. It's so much better than it was."
Yeah, and that's the thing. There are genetic reasons and dietary reasons, deficiency reasons, energetic reasons, and all together, they get triggered by our way of living and thinking. And of course, when we suppress emotions, they have to come out somehow. I remember when my grandmother was describing somebody, so 30 years ago, when she was describing somebody that was angry, she would say he had the bile, he was green with bile, and bile is that liquid that you need. And here we go, pancreas and liver stuff, the digestion, and the bile is bitter, so the bile indicates the bitterness. And I remember Dr. Christopher, my trainer for herbalism, he was always saying, the people who are the most bitter, they have toxic liver problems. If you cleanse the liver, they calm down, they're not as toxic anymore. It's just something interesting how the emotions correlate with the organs. So just imagine swallowing everyday toxic environment vibrations. So I call them vibration, but really it's comments from people, the way you are rejected, not accepted, and just the way that people can be quite nasty nowadays, even in the work environment, in the office, at school, between teachers. And you swallow because you need your job and you have to be good, you have to fit in. But then eventually this anger is internalized. It has to go somewhere. So some people will be able to maybe express it with art therapy, with singing, with dance, with somatic therapies, with movement, sports, swimming, just shaking yourself, being out in nature, grounding, tapping. But other people go to drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, violence, gang. What is gang violence? Isn't it just anger? And where is this anger coming from?
Yes.
You know?
Well, that's why we do what we do, isn't it? To find the root and release. Because it is all about releasing it. It's about understanding where it came from, analysing it, and then letting it go. Just like a dandelion clock, really. Just allowing all those emotions to dissipate and taking your power back. That's the most important thing. Releasing it and then standing in your true power, and which is self-love. And it's not running a bath. It's about how you feel about yourself. It's about standing in your true power, being unapologetically you, having those clear boundaries and feeling like a sparkly diamond of potential that you actually are. That's what self-love is. And all the other bits are just that parts of you have disassociated from yourself because of all the things that you've gone through. And we have to make the outside world make sense. And when we're little and very young, we've got very little reference point. So, people telling us that we're stupid or that we don't matter is going to have an impact on us, isn't it?
So, we only have 7 minutes, so we have to wrap it up. So, guys, we have established this connection. And if almost 170 episodes in 3 years of Mindset Hacks, you haven't got this message yet, today Rachel and I want to give you back this message because we know that maybe you haven't listened to all the other episodes. That's fine, but you just go back to iTunes and look up Create with Franz and find out the episode that you need for your own issue. But that's the issue. Sometimes we want to completely ignore how we feel, our emotions, but they exist. So there's no point in drinking them away. I can't even speak. Gambling, whatever. The emotions will be there. And the more we suppress them with chemicals, the more we're going to have issues that will emerge in some fancy way from our body, even if it's patches and it's just going to happen. So let's say that a person is thinking about having therapy, but we're not sure yet. It's going to come. But they want some steps, actionable things that they can do now to start this path towards healing. would you be able to share some steps with my very eager audience? They want to know what to do about this.
I think you shared some amazing things there. Like you said, dance it out, draw, write it out, do all it just however you want to express it. Shouting into a pillow. Because what just came to me was it's like pushing all our emotions down. If you've got a big ball, a blow-up inflatable ball, and you've got a swimming pool and you're trying to push that ball down under the water, the more you try, the more it wants to pop up. And that's really what our emotions are doing. So all they need is just expressing. And so it's about talking to that, doing some mirror work, looking at yourself in the mirror, telling yourself how amazing you are. Just start bite-sized bits that feel comfortable, because talking to yourself like that is you're talking to your subconscious mind. Or just holding yourself, wrapping your arms around yourself and nurturing that younger you, that little child who felt alone and abandoned. Just remind her how safe she is and how loved she is. And just do gradual little steps, that feel comfortable, and just build on that, because it feels like a foreign country when you start. It's like, I don't even know, I'm lovable. No, but you are. And it's about just taking those, I'm kind. Maybe that's a step forward. I'm kind. I do this well. And just praising yourself really helps. But the words that follow I am are really powerful. So I am kind. I am amazing. Those kind of words. And just look in the mirror and say those words to yourself. It's a great thing to do first thing in the morning, last thing at night, or whenever you visit the bathroom. Mm-hmm. Do it in your head even. If you're in a public toilet, it's probably not, you know what I mean? But it's just looking at yourself when you're washing your hands in the mirror and just talking to yourself in a loving way really helps.
Yeah. And when we try to do that, if we see that it's not coming up and you want to burst into tears, that's when we know we need a therapist to help us, because there is a block there is something that we heard when we were young, or a behavior that is pushing us to think we don't deserve to be loved. We are wrong. There's something wrong with us. So that's when you need to contact us. So that's when I want to connect and say, if you want to connect with us, you can go to my Facebook page, send me a message, go to franzsidney.com, find me. And where can we find Rachel to ask for these questions?
Well, you can find me on my website, wellnesswithrachel.co.uk, or you can find me on Facebook, Rachel Farnsworth. And I've got a Facebook group, Decoding the Body's Messages, as well, to transform and thrive.
Or also, we can look up where you are in some magazines in the last few weeks.
Yes, well, if you just Google search me, there'll be a lot of stuff come up now. Rachel Farnsworth. You'll find all sorts of articles. I'm in Woman magazine this week, 3rd of October, on page 14. So yeah, there's loads of stuff. Just Google search me and you'll find Rachel, Rachel, and Claire with an I. So yeah.
So that is great. And so thank you so much for sharing with us the experience that you had, your real raw love and hypnosis together that made this miracle of your daughter being relieved from all these symptoms and being able to live a normal life like a teenager wants to do, a young woman wants to do, which I think that's what we aim for. We just want to live a normal life. And sometimes that's all it is this emotional stuff that has to happen. So thank you so much for being with us, Rachel. It was a pleasure.
You're very welcome. It's been lovely talking to you. Thank you for inviting me.
It's a great thing. So guys, I hope that this episode has been amazing for you guys. So click and subscribe, share with a friend that maybe has a problem and wants some help and they think they have to go and have this very complicated stuff. No, 1, 2, 3 sessions and you're going to be completely different. Even when it happens that the disease is going to stay there, just the mindset change that makes things a lot easier. It's like incredible. So there's always hope to feel a lot better in whatever situation you are in. So thank you again for being with us, and I'll see you all next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
You listen to Create with Franz Sidney.